Hello, everybody, again. I have a very special guest in my podcast. Um, this is going to be a different discussion today. So, we're going to talk about AI, but from the perspective of humanity, um, about the human elements of AI. And I will try to make it as a discussion. So, we have Adriana Delor, who is an expert in emerging technologies on human behavior and the creator of Reclaiming the Future, right? That's what you have as a name on the podcast. And she will be talking about the means to be, what it means to be human in the AI driven world. And she has a quite vast experience with IBM and Verizon. I'm really curious on what they do in the AI world. And she was on TEDx. I watched your performance there. You were on TV on CBS News, so that's great. Based on the reaction of some of the TV anchors, I think they're scared of AI, and yeah, so you're all over the place: TV, radio, podcasts, books, um, and we met with Adriana at the Just Capital event. That was phenomenal. It's a bunch of bankers and private equity firms getting together, and we started to talk AI. And I said, "Oh, I need to have you on my podcast." It's one of those things where my audience cares about, and we talk about it, but we sort of forget what we see in the future of AI, what we see with the with what AI can bring, say 10, 20, 50 years from now. So let's talk about it.
Let's do
Adriana,
it.
welcome to the show. Yep,
Thank you for having me.
absolutely. All right. So we have two opposite sort of perspectives, you and me, right? So you are looking at the human aspect of AI. I'm looking at as a practitioner. I know all AI technologies. My one of my firms is AI based. We implement 10 AI technologies. Um, so let's start with, how do you see AI? What does it mean to you? Because AI means so many things. People mix it up. And let's start with sort of your definition. Where do you see it, and go from there?
Great. No, and just to be clear, I'm not against AI, so we're not on opposing sides here. I just think that along with everything that can do for us today, it's moving so fast that we're sort of forgetting about how people will play a role or won't play a role in the future and what that will do to society and to the economy, really. Um, My journey with AI began with IBM. IBM sold me a role on management consulting, but it was, of course, very much intertwined with all emerging technologies. AI was a big deal back then because Watson's Jeopardy um, stunt was still remembered very well, and people would come to us and say, "Hey, can Watson just come in and figure out problems in my supply chain?" And we're like, "Wait a minute, this is not how Watson works. You know, you have a white box, nothing in the box. Do you have things to put in the box? Oh, you don't have things to put in the box. Okay, great. Let's go get you the things. Let's do, business transformation and get your data straight away and all that." So, um, I think that since AI has progressed drastically, I think ChatGPT is something that people are very familiar with, but even that is just so profound and so uh I guess helpful in ways that sometimes people can't be or can't be as fast. And my point of view on AI is that and my definition of it is that it's basically it's knowledge. It's a knowledge base, and it's a base of knowledge, automation, and understanding. So taking something that is information based and putting it into action. Before, we talked about AI in the days of IBM as something that is augmenting humans, so like augmented intelligence, where the human is still doing most of the work, and AI is based on, like a decision tree. If this happens, then that happens. If this happens, then that happens. Today, AI has progressed into not even descriptory, but we used to say it's like description, prediction, and prescription. Now it's prescription beyond, right? So you're no longer describing things for the human, like maybe a data analysis. You're no longer predicting the future, or maybe not the future, predicting. I guess you are right. Like if you're predicting what's going to happen next year with math or whatever, and the data you have on the past company growth or whatever. Um, but you're actually prescribing to people and to companies and to humanity things like, medical advice or therapy sessions with ChatGPT, um, or what a company should do or shouldn't do, or what people should or shouldn't do. And the question is, how do you know that what the AI says is true? I mean,
Yeah.
right now we're, very, very trustworthy. It seems very trustworthy because why would, but technically it's governed by a company that wants to make money. So what's to stop them from doing something else with it, right? So my definition of AI is something that takes knowledge and automates it and can think, thousands of millions of billions of times faster than a human and can basically amplify everything that we've done um, a millionfold.
Yeah, so that's interesting. You already hit a couple of topics. First is um, we're getting dumber with AI, right? Human race is getting dumber with AI because AI takes over some of the mechanical and mathematical functions that we don't have to think about, right? So you ask a task, and the AI will give you an answer. And I wonder if you try what's the future hold for us? Asking ChatGPT in 10 years, 50 years. I don't know. It sounds like you did. Um I just don't know what the AI's answer will be. But in my book, I always say that people who don't use AI, they left behind, and humans enabled by AI, they survive, and they replace those humans without AI, right? So that's what's going on today. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe everybody will be replaced by AI, but so let's touch on the effects of AI, right? You see a lot of unemployment. You see a displacement of population that can translate to wars. Oh my God! I think we talked about it at the event. Is that sort of your line of vision where, with the speed of AI evolution, we can come to, and what we can do to prevent it?
I think right now we're in a very interesting time where a human doesn't need too many other humans to do whatever they want to do because AI can do it for them. So I think equipping yourself with the skills of AI is essential for anybody entering the workforce or in the workforce or exiting the workforce. Just things that we couldn't do before, we can now with AI, and it's important that everybody knows or at least tries to figure out how that could be possible for them. I think that we're also in an era where AI is just a baby. Like this is not the AI that companies imagine as they're building towards something new. So AGI, like artificial general intelligence, or ASI, artificial super intelligence, that's where things really change, right? And at that point, and for people who maybe haven't heard those terms, what it is they're basically trying to replicate a human how a human thinks, because right now AI is still a little bit more robotic, let's say, and just it answers it does a really good job adapting to answer to you so that you feel like it's really smart, but at the end of the day, there's some glitches there for sure, and it does hallucinate. But AI, AGI and ASI, not only do they not make mistakes, it's like a human brain amplified to the magnitude of billions, and together with, you're the smartest philosopher, the smartest doctor, just knowledge is worth zero because all the knowledge is with the AI. So if we as humans studied in school from books and, absorb knowledge and we're not using it, and we don't need to do that anymore because AI has the knowledge and our knowledge is worth zero because it's now free and amplified, then what happens to purpose? What happens to human purpose when intelligence is cheap and endless? Because not only that philosophical question, but also humans tie their self-worth to what they do for work, right? So if what we do for work or how we get there is learning something from a book and then uh, doing it, then what happens to those people? And of course, that's not everybody. There's definitely people that do trade, like, plumbers, electricians. There's people who are entrepreneurs. And I mean, those people I think are in great shoes, especially if they're using AI, because, oh my gosh, if you Google how many companies these days are worth billions of dollars, but have only like 2 to 50 people maximum in the whole company, and the company is worth billions of dollars. I mean, being an entrepreneur is just cake right now.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I agree with you. You don't need a huge staff. Um, at the moment of imperfection of AI, a lot of companies offshore, right? So you don't need a lot of employees onshore. So we'll call it at the current moment, the errors are still there and people are afraid of AI. And therefore, you need somebody to watch for every result AI can give you um, until everybody's comfortable. But let's touch on the people I mentioned are afraid of AI, right? So, what would you say to those people who are afraid? And you know, we do see the adoption rate being very, very slow, right? Young generation, they use it every day, right? Starting from middle school, elementary, middle, high, college, um, first job, and they use it and abuse it. The older generation, I think they're suffering, right? It reminds me, the floppy disk time or VHS tapes time or vinyl switching to tapes and cassettes. So that's the time. That's the difference, right? If you're stuck in the old age and you're afraid to touch it because you're too late to the game. What do you say to those people? How can we bring them up to age of AI and getting them educated?
Well, um, a couple of things. Adoption always happens in stages, right? There's early adopters, there's followers, and then there's laggers. So it's not a surprise. AI has had a big boom in last year, but really hasn't been around at this level for that long. I mean, it has. You and I know that it has since 2015 or like earlier automation AI, but really at this sort of level, it kind of hasn't. So I think we're still in the early adoption stage, and that's normal. People being scared of I think fear shows us what we care about, right? So uh, I think that we're not really afraid of AI. We're afraid of becoming irrelevant in our own lives because, again, we tie our identity and self worth to what we know and what we do for work, right? And so if that's taken away, who are we? Like, why are we here? Our whole lives, society has told us, hey, this thing that you like to do over here, very nice. Do it on the weekend. Go get a real job. Go be an accountant. Go be a doctor. Go be a lawyer. Go make some money. And by the way, your work should not be something you like to do. Go do some work, right? That's the society's teachings and your parents, right? But if that's no longer the path, then what do we do, right? I think people are afraid not so much of AI because AI is actually very, very helpful. And you and I know how, oh my goodness, how much work off your plate AI can take off, right? But for people who are in industries that will be affected by AI and who've been told their whole lives, like, hey, your knowledge is what you're worth. If your knowledge is taken away, what are you worth, right? Who are you even in this life? So I think to me, this is a really kind of a great spiritual awakening. And I'm not religious by any means whatsoever. But I do think, there's all this talk right now about manifestation and just like aligning with what you uh creating positive thoughts and all those things. And the reason that's happening, and I think it's so interesting how it's aligned with what's happening with the conversations of fear of AI and everything else is people are in this sort of like let's reinvent ourselves mode. Like what do we actually like to do? What do we actually want? Like what is it to be human and how can we add value to each other beyond what we've been told all of our lives? So the timing is great. And I think that the number one thing, and everything's so cryptic and is moving so fast, it's really hard to tell like what is going to be our purpose, what will humans do, right? But I think the one thing that's very clear is that things that are unique about you, and maybe not so much knowledge, but um things that people look up to you for. Maybe it's your story, maybe you've uniquely grown up somewhere and succeeded, or maybe you have a way of looking at things that people look up to. The what everybody's missing is that if that stuff is not online, if what you if how you think, what you know, what people look to you for, your creativity, even if that's not somewhere online, then you're gonna get left behind. There's companies like OpenAI right now that are a very, very simple example. There's a shopping feature that has been launched in ChatGPT or is about to launch. And instead of describing the products that it's going to sell to people, it's gathering feedback from like videos and social media posts to use those things to sell the product to other people. So people are actually selling the product to other people, but AI is coordinating it. But those people that are posted the videos, they're not getting paid. They're not getting anything out of it, right? So it's sort of like there needs to be a restructuring of how humans add value in the world of AI that needs people to add value in it somehow, some way, because people still relate to people much more than they relate to AI, right? But also, if other things about you, not just videos about you reviewing products or talking about this thing that you bought, if videos about who you are and what you know and how you talk about things, if that's not online, then you just won't be found. And if there is a platform where you can contribute value and get paid that way and be valuable in that way, you won't be able to be, because who are you and what are you about? Right. So, not saying that everybody should be an influencer by any means, but there's platforms like Delphi AI, for example, where, if you've written a book, or if you have a bunch of videos talking about a particular topic, maybe you did a TED talk, maybe you did other stuff, you can upload, yourself there, all that stuff that you've said, and people can actually like call you and text you and talk to you on those topics as if it's you, and you record your voice, and so you can kind of clone yourself. That's already happening, right? So that just opens the opportunity to much
Scary.
more stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. Even though I have 2 books that I've written, they're sold on Amazon, and, that's it. I'm done with it. Now I have to revive it and put myself as a fake expert, or I guess, the fake Alex, answering questions. But, I wanted to share my story a little bit, which relates to this topic. And I think it can give an interesting perspective of my journey. I used to work for a telecom company. I was the architect manufacturing chips for the cell phones, like remember flip phone, Motorola, and Nokia, and Ericsson. Um, we started everything in U.S. Then all of a sudden, offshore opened. I end up flying to India, and I stayed there for a few weeks, educating my replacement in Pune and Bangalore and New Delhi. I flew back, and in about 6 months, we got let go. So it's the same with AI, right? So people that are training AI today will train AI to be as smart as them or even better. And it was a trigger for me at that time to start my own business, right? So there was a short circuit in my brains, and I said, listen, something's wrong. They are replacing us with the offshore labor. It's unfortunate. It's life. We're more expensive than folks offshore. So what do we do? And that forces me to create more ideas, more businesses, become an entrepreneur. Right. So that's a push that maybe a lot of the people listening to this podcast will have after they are displaced by AI. So it's the same story, it's the same action. History repeats itself, right? Where at some point people will be faced with the same dilemma. AI is as smart as human for some functions, mechanical functions, and they need to change. Either go to a profession that will never be replaced, or it'll be, you know, a new startup related to AI or not. So there definitely will be a lot of push to change careers. Um, but at the same time, I just came back from the conference in New York. It's the Mortgage Banker Association conference. Um, I can tell you the truth that adoption rate in the industries, especially my industry, banking and finance, is still low, very low. In fact, people are exhausted talking about AI. Why? Because it's a media fault. It's the startup's fault. If you have a PowerPoint slide, you already pitch AI product, right? So all of that is going on, and the big companies, big banks are just exhausted, completely exhausted. Okay, we get it. AI is there. The business and economy is bad, so we're not looking to change. We're not looking to invest, right? So, what's your experience in adoption for the big industries?
Um, I think so experience wise, 100%, when I was at IBM, you couldn't go to companies and be like, "Here's AI, which one do you want? What do you want to do with it?" That's not that wouldn't go very well. You sort of had to say, "Look, what are the problems that you have to solve, and let's figure out how to solve them. And by the way, we're going to use AI." And you don't care, right? Um, but I think so I'd mentioned to you when we met at the event that one of my big roles was at Verizon. figuring out what the future looks like because they wanted to build technologies on top of 5G and then to figure out like what do we build to become a tech company. If we have 5G that can power AI and blockchain and AR and all these different ways beyond just connectivity, Verizon bought like a super special spectrum, um, different than Sprint and AT&T for 5G, and so they wanted to see how they can leverage it to become a tech company. My team and I were doing predictions that more had to do with human behavior. I mean, some with technology as well, but it had to be aligned with kind of how humans are going to behave, and not on a one-on-one level, but like society-wise. And one of the big things that we saw was, or we predicted, and by the way, like 60% of those things came true, and I can tell you which things those are since they already came true. But one of the things that is sort of being talked about but hasn't really come true, so I can also say that, is this idea of business structures breaking down to be less B2B or B2C or big bank, small bank, but H to H, so human to human. Meaning, I don't think that the adoption of AI is going to affect the disruption that we're thinking is going to happen. I think that those big giants are going to fall apart because someone's going to come in and say, look, we don't need to bank in the way that we banked before. We have, let's say, blockchain, we have AI, let's have a self-functioning bank. And by the way, we're going to have 10 people operating this company and we're going to be worth $1 billion. And so you don't need to have banks because XYZ and it's too hard, too expensive, this and that. Here's a whole new economy for how you're going to bank. Here you go. And the banks are like, okay, what do we do now? Right? And so I think that those kinds of infrastructures are going to potentially use people on an H2H level. And like, if you're familiar with the term DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, where it's a big term in crypto and blockchain, which essentially means that you have an organization of freelancers and you have tasks where you get paid for completed tasks. So you're no longer employed by a company getting paid a full-time or a part-time salary. You have skills and the company needs your skills and you can contribute whatever skills you want and you get paid for those skills. And that's it. And everybody kind of operates on a project basis and the company functions with AI essentially. So
Interesting.
even if you needed people, right? Even if you couldn't run this, new banking system with 2 to 50 people, you could still form a really interesting organization, and it's possible today. It's just it's not urgent, so people are not doing it right now because it's not urgent. We have all the technology to do this now, but those are the kinds of things that are going to get disrupted. I don't think that adoption is going to accelerate much more because it's really difficult when you're working with big companies or in big companies. It's very difficult to make any sort of changes because everything is so convoluted and diplomatic and dinosauric, right? That big companies don't like change.
I
It's
can
hard.
tell you that, yeah, the banking industry, if you look across the banking industry, only two large banks are utilizing the smart contracts and the Ethereum chain or whatever the chain is for servicing or transactions. Everybody else, no. And the reason is legal system, rating agencies. That's it. So if you want to get rated, you have to comply with the rating agency regulations and guidelines. And then legal system, if you get challenged, you have the means of challenging.
Yeah.
If everything is crypto AI, in theory it makes sense. In the reality, nobody wants to implement because A, it's different. We don't know how the whole legal system will be affected. And we floated an idea of mortgages over blockchain. That's coming, but not right away. Maybe 5 years. It's our government and our banking system is so slow that it requires pilots, projects, adoption, one bank, one city, let's try it again, treasury approval, SEC approval. So it's a flow of events that need to happen to get this to reality, which is a good thing. I love bureaucracy. Why? It's because it guarantees no changes. You can't build a business that every day there's a change. That's why people at the conference saying Trump is great for some things, but everything is changing. We can't adapt that fast, right? So for the business, it's not as good. So stability. Stan Middleman, the CEO of Freedom Mortgage, says, "I just wish that at some point there will be a stable system with no changes, which we can just, you know, land or operate, and we would greatly, prosper, and all of our employees will prosper. And as soon as there's a change, government wants this program, affordable housing this, or veteran that, we have to adopt. And every time it's an expense, expense, and you have to be compliant. So it's constant evolution, especially with AI as well, that prevents them to be profitable. Right now, whoever's in the mortgage origination business, they don't make money. Break even or losing, just surviving, right? Why? Constant change, and the market and economy is shrinking. So, from my perspective, it just, the adoption in the big companies, it's a slow, bureaucratical process. Um, Cybersecurity is a big issue, right?
Hmm.
Trusting where the data is, um, owning the data centers, infrastructures like IBM servers, or servers in the Amazon. Where's the data located? Is somebody using DeepSeek or somebody using Claude and ChatGPT? DeepSeek is a no-no, right? How do I know what they use? They have to give me some documents to prove, right? So there's a lot of things that needs to get lined up in a legal and compliance perspective, and nobody's doing it, right? So I know the banks that use the vendors who use DeepSeek. That's a no-no, right? I think DeepSeek is prohibited in the US or something of that sort, right? And they still use it, find a way to use it. So something needs to happen in my mind, to get the adoption rate higher when you have a legal infrastructure and the compliance infrastructure in place to roll in the AI solutions faster.
Well, the bottleneck is always the people, though. Let's say you get the legal infrastructure and everything else in line in cybersecurity, everything's golden. You have to retrain the people. And oh my goodness, in a big corporation, like if you have people switch from like a PC to a Mac, it's a whole big, adjustment for like a week or 2 weeks, right? Imagine changing how they do the whole business. That's panic, that's mistakes, that's which is why, back to this self-functioning organization where you don't have to worry about people doing the same thing over and over again. You have people who are more than willing to do this one thing today and then decide what they're going to do tomorrow and get paid that way. And the organization, if they change something, just change it. Go. Done. And it's technology based. And so uh so do you think that adoption will accelerate in these organizations? Do you think it's possible
It'll
for it
take
to?
time. Yeah, it'll take, just with your example alone, I have an originator, a very large company, billion-dollar corporation that's adopting my technology in their work stream. And a task takes 2 hours of human labor. And the notion was, Alex, come in and implement this task with AI. We did. So we came back and says, well, your task takes about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, instead of 2 hours, because you still need a human overlay. You don't trust AI completely. So it's a human in the loop. Um, Try it out. They come back and say, no, it still takes 2 hours. I'm scratching my head. How is this possible? We just implemented AI. And what we learned is they were doing things the same way with the new tools. So looking at every page of the document, trying to figure out where things are, zero trust to AI, and then coming back and telling it takes longer. And to me, I sit back and say, wow. So the point of the whole exercise was, you have all the tools, you just don't know how to use it. So we gave you everything. We proved internally it's flying through, but there's no trust.
Mhm.
And there's no education on, now there's no PC, you just have to use Mac. And this is how you do it, and this is much faster. Right. So this is the, and every organization is the same way, right? The people with skill set that is required to run I still don't understand it, right? And that's a biggest bottleneck. If you have a team has a guy, tech guy, that says, "Oh, I know exactly what you're doing. I understand it." Perfect.
Well, there's no incentive to understand it, right? Because if their life doesn't
Security.
change, their life
Yeah.
doesn't change whether or not they use it, right? So where's the motivation? People run on incentives.
Yeah.
Why? Are you gonna pay me more? Is it gonna make my days shorter? What is in it for me, right? There's
It makes more money to the company, and my job security is now, at the jeopardy, right? So that's a good,
misaligned incentives.
yeah. So good segue to AI proof. What is that in your mind? And I'll tell you my opinion.
I'd love to hear that. Um,
Yeah.
AI proof sounds kind of like armor. Um, but the real question is like, what is it about people that's human enough that'll still matter, even if everything else is automated? Like, what differentiates a human and AI? I think there's not enough conversation and discussion around that. And to be honest, I'm still digging through the answer myself. And I'm finding examples every day where I'm like, okay, well, this AI can do this. But for example, AI can create all the paintings in the world that you want, right? Like a million if you wanted today. Repeat, remix, make beautiful ones. But there's not a single painting that's going to cost $1 million created by AI. Why? Because, you can create the same one. Same as we had NFTs back in the day. You can, I'll take a picture of it. Here you go. Like, why would I buy your NFT for $1 million? And I have a picture of it. Um, so I think that AI proof, to me, is figuring out what is it about people that remains needed and necessary. And in that
Yes.
in that realm, I think right now, at least in my mind, have formed two distinct categories, maybe even three. One is around um, like a lived human experience. So, if someone has a relatable story, like you're struggling with something, and you talk to someone who has struggled with the same thing, and they're pretty admirable, and they maybe are further than you in your field, or somehow have accolades, and they've done the same thing. Like you might pay some money to talk to them, right? To have a one-on-one, or to listen to their um, audiobook or whatever, because you're like, wow, this is like this feels like home, and I need to figure out what they did. So that's something that AI doesn't really have a life. It can probably collect those experiences, but they still have to surface, which is why if those things are not anywhere to be found, then AI is not going to find them either, right? That's number one. Number two is human creativity, and we just talked about this for a second too. But art, music, um, things that are created from a lived experience, right? Again, AI can make as much music and as much art as it wants, but if it's not relatable, if it doesn't touch the soul, if it doesn't come from an experience where someone's like, wow, like I went through a heartbreak too, and this just hits right here. That's different. And then the third, I think, is this idea of micro communities, micro value, micro teams, micro everything. So going away from, again, big corporations and into kind of like towards age to age, human to human, micro value. So maybe, this idea of being an influencer isn't so far-fetched from what the future might look like. Maybe there's a community of people who need exactly what you are talking about or can offer, or need a way to deal with the new realm of things. And so maybe you're really good at this way of relating to people and helping them see the future in a way that they can't really see, right? So you have these sessions with your community every couple of weeks, and you get paid for that. And even if we're all on basic universal income, which if people don't know what that is, it's the government basically giving you a stipend that you live out and pay to companies that are still functioning. You might choose to spend some of that on feeling better about your life. So I think those three things, it's lived human experiences, creativity, and communities.
Let me add one more. Um, so I think anything related to services, right? So at
Yeah,
least in the short term, if you are a handyman, plumber,
100%.
roofer, working on the property preservation, there's no replacement of your job with AI for sure. Whenever you do any trades with your hands, I think you're safe, right? So to me, that's AI proof. Uh, Doctors, hospitals, nurses, home care, no, definitely not AI replaceable. Doctors, I guess, supplemental with AI. Uh,
There's a whole hospital now in China that's run only with AI doctors.
and
Have you
if AI doctor will make a mistake, who's going to sue who?
I don't think that happens in China. I don't think
Yeah, exactly. In the US, you have to think about it, right? So is AI buying the liability insurance? I don't think so. So
no.
there has to, yeah. So in my mind, there's certainly jobs that relate to human, age to age, as you said. That will require, always a human.
Mhm.
Uh, AI educators, yeah, good.
Notably, what you mentioned about trade is sort of human to human, right? Because it's a one-on-one.
Yeah, agreed. when we start, building flying cars and you need a mechanic. Well, you might need a mechanic with AI. So there's always a need for human to human, but we're talking about years from now. But yeah, I agree with you on AI proof. So it's any and all jobs related to um, human to human approach. Right. Completely
Yeah.
agree.
Or
And
unless you're an entrepreneur and you can harness AI to build something for the people. That also exists. It's really interesting actually how, you can, and I know that probably not every doctor can be replaced in the US given that we sue people here, but I am seeing posts from doctors like radiologists, for example. They're like, "Wow, I developed the skill of reading an X-ray or a scan over the last 20 years, and AI can just do it in a second. Like whatever I learned is not necessary anymore. So I guess I'm gonna go find a job at McDonald's. I don't know, right?
AI is better, by the way.
And AI is better.
Reading the X-ray, AI is now better. Yeah.
So it is slowly creeping in there. And so but it's interesting that, something like food delivery. My friend was telling me a story the other day how she delivered she ordered her food in New York, and this little, robot delivered her food, and it made so many mistakes. It like missed her house, it ran over somebody's foot, like it just right. So, food delivery versus, healing people. It's like, yeah, you were gonna replace the healers and the very, like, people who went to school for years, like, for all their lives, right, to study this one thing and take all the tests and take on a whole lot of loans. We can replace those people, but people who deliver food, that's hard. That's hard
Yeah.
to replace. So I just find that fascinating.
I agree. Yeah. But now many professions, in my mind, will disappear. Right. Many professions. Folks that are doing typing, folks that are doing, you know, mechanical labor. I'm worried about real estate agents. I'm worried about, loan officers. Um, some of the legal functions. There's just a lot of folks that are still, doing the mundane things every day. And I can't put the percentage of people that are um, probably being replaced in the near future, but it's significant, right? So maybe your idea of universal income does make sense. Otherwise, those people will
Well, it's not my idea. I don't want that. That's like communism wrapped in a candy wrapper. That's not something we want at all.
yeah.
Because I mean, you probably remember. I don't remember when you came to this country, but I remember communism. I was little. It was just breaking out, and it was not what they sell you. It's not equality at all. It's crime. It's corruption.
Fraud, bribes, the whole thing. Yeah, 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 yeah. I was there. Even though there are a lot of positives too, a lot of family values, a lot of time, vacations, and nobody cared about working hard, and everybody tried to be happy. I guess I always find positive in things, but um, so let's talk about, since we're talking about crime and fraud, um, AI bad actors, right? So that's everybody's afraid of that bit, right? Cyberbullying, deepfakes, identity fraud, a lot of cheats, the pump and dump schemes. What do you think we need to do there? And is there evolution that everybody's looking at, internationally or domestically?
I was just talking about this to someone the other day because I saw a clip of somebody famous. I forgot who it was already, but he was talking about the future being kind of like the Terminator, where everything is just horrible and we're controlled by these big tech companies. And I like to see the positive too. Like I'm not, I know this is a little bit negative right now where I'm coming from, um, but I think that there's no governance right now of AI or tech companies or how this whole thing contributes to society. The government is too slow to react. And so I think that s- it it was okay before when Google, for example, was taking data and doing something with it, making money from it, and we benefited. We were able to search and we were able to find things online, and Google benefited people too, so it made sense. We didn't pay for it, so it used our data. Um, right now, it's not just that the tech companies are not in control of what they're building, they are, but AI is sort of not something that that is like we don't have a culture of controlling technology in general, right? And I'm not sure to what extent we should, but this idea of creating deep fakes and AI governance, I don't know that it's at the tech company level. I think it's at the government level or some neutral third party agency that needs to create a structure around this, and not just for protecting us from the deep fakes and from fraud and from that kind of activity, but also for making sure that as I was saying before, as humans contribute to this, whether it's in a positive or an or negative way, there's reward or repercussions, right? So if you're taping videos about things you like and it's been helpful for some company to sell their product because of what you said in some, one post somewhere, you should, like a movie actor, get residuals for the product that's been sold because of you, right? And if you've posted something and you were the reason why someone got scammed or you contributed to AI fraud, you should be there should be consequences. People should know that, hey, if I do this, I may suffer. Right now, there's no consequences. It's like, okay, well, what's anybody gonna do, right? So, unless it hits like a real crime that we've defined in this world, there's really no repercussion. I think just today I saw a post that Trump signed some bill that was um it's called the Take It Down bill or something like that, where you're basically punished if you're using somebody else's visuals like photography for, I think it's for deep fakes and for revenge, like sending, somebody's pictures just to someone else. You could be punished, I think, for up to 3 years in prison. So we're taking steps, I think, towards that, but the issue is much bigger than that. I think it's a good step towards it, but I think there needs to be a governing body, and to tell people the rules. Like, what are the rules? Nobody has set the rules. Somebody needs to.
It has to be agreed and acknowledged by a person, right? So if I'm being targeted, unless I gave a specific acknowledgments and agreements to a thing that I authorized to do, it should be illegal. Spam calls should be illegal. The using my name, my pictures should be illegal unless I agree. I actually agreed to use my face and my voice on one of the deepfake sites that creates a deepfake of myself, and I write a text and it talks. So I talk, right? I gave authorization to it. I know, I acknowledged, and I know that you know if I ever need it, I'll pull fake myself out, but it's me, my actions,
Mhm.
right? If somebody else is using it, I didn't give any authorization. So that's what I worry the most about. And I agree. I mean, there has to be a sort of a almost a patent based protection of anything that is mine stays mine, right?
Right, the
And
best model
somebody who is
is oh, sorry, keep going.
no, it's I wrapped it up, right. So in a sense, people should get punishment. 3 years, probably too steep, but there should be a punishment for some fine and penalty, and up to maybe some years in prison. But it's prison is too steep. Somebody is stupid enough to reuse me or post my picture somewhere, and we can have a laugh, but that person will be punished.
It's probably usually up to it's always up to some
Yeah, yeah.
years, right? So that's what they love to do. I mean, I think, the best model out there that we could replicate very easily is what happens with movie actors, right? They have to give consent if their picture is used in any way to induce some sort of action or create financial benefit. They get residuals from anything that they're in, right? So as people whose data and visuals and input is now used online, the best model we can replicate is that every human now is kind of like a movie actor, and we have a likeness, we have points of view, we have things that can benefit this new system of AI and technology, and we uh we get rewarded in that way, and then there are rules around how we get punished if we are bad actors in this faith.
Yeah, it sounds like a reward scheme that China is using. If you bought the healthy fruits, you get bonus points. If you spend the money in some sort of a call it strip club, then you get the points taken away. So that's the China
Oh.
structure, right? So you get points when government issues you tokens or money, like a welfare program, right? they track that money, right? It's a crypto money that
Mm.
a person will spend either on good things or bad things. And if you spend it on the good things, you
Of
get
course, we
extra points.
want to fight it.
Yeah. Or you run around and collect the coins like a Pokemon. That would be fun. Um, yeah, but let's come back to more serious topics. What do you see as far as the international standard organization or infrastructure putting things around? I think you had an idea of sort of organizing the think tank and other venues. What do you propose from your position that we need to do as a society or as a country, and how can we all contribute?
Yeah, I mean, I think despite, AI moving so fast and there being so much danger with the technology itself, I don't think technology is the threat. I think that misalignment is. And I think right now no one's really aligning anything. We're just kind of very much in awe of what's going on. And the defining variable for what this thing is, whether it's a think tank or multiple things that kind of come up, it's not going to be how technology moves or whether or not this is the right thing to do. It'll be okay now that we have technology here and here are the possibilities. Human imagination together with policy is what's going to shape up what the future looks like. So someone has to imagine things, right? Someone has to have the imagination and then have a pull in policy, which means you also need funding. And a think tank is the best thing that I could come up with. It could be an accelerator, it could be really anything. But I think there needs to be an organization that, beyond what we talked about, which is governing kind of what should happen and what's right and wrong as technology moves forward, thinks through and helps people reevaluate how they add value and also kind of um, lobbies maybe to the tech companies in how they use slash reward people that add value to the machine that's making them money, which is AI. Um, this think tank has to be something that isn't just spinning out businesses, although I think it would. I think it would spin out platforms and infrastructure for either reskilling people, which means it's helping them uh, get more educated and adapt to what this AI world is, um, but that's just, teaching them AI. I think beyond that, it needs to think about how we can shift the mindset, like people's minds around how they can add value. How can they add value? And how do we provide them the platform to do that? Because every single person is a solution to something in the world. We just haven't been told, like our education system is not such where we explore what we're good at or our talents. It's like, here are the things you learn. Go learn math, go learn science, go do these things, learn them again in college and again in grad school, and pick a major and get a job. So no one really tells us to figure out who we are and what we like to do. But I truly think we are the solution to something in the world, and helping people figure that out is one thing that I think this think tank should be thinking about, and that's more from like a media perspective and an influence perspective. And and lastly, I think that the the infrastructure that I'm talking about that it could come up with is going to be something that is going to rethink the education system as a whole. Because right now, like, I'm not sure that I would send my kids to college, um, because I don't really know what they would learn. I think I want them to learn things like, conflict resolution and empathy and history, just skills that are necessary to understand this world and to be around other humans that we really don't prioritize. But would I tell them go be a doctor or definitely not? I'd probably tell them do what you like. Like, what is it that you like to do? Let's figure out how to make that happen. Maybe you're gonna be an artist, maybe you're gonna be an entrepreneur. I don't know, but you can't be something that's written in a book because right?
Sour topic for me. I have 3 kids, and it's a daily discussion with the, middle son, Daniel, that Luke's the older son, who is a businessman. Uh, he doesn't care about college because his argument is, "Hey, there's courses that I really don't care about. Why do I even pay for it or go to college? The electives, right? Why do I even care about Greek culture? I don't. Let's focus on business." So he has a valid argument, but at the same time, I'm still old school. Give me a diploma, show me that you graduate the college, so at least my bragging rights in front of everybody is, hey, my kid graduated. But Yeah, I agree with you. So there's some truth into colleges didn't adapt fast enough, right?
Well, I think there's one way you could frame it to your child, that I think is still valid for how this world's gonna shape up. Meaning, when I went to business school, I got my MBA from UCLA Anderson. The reason I chose that school wasn't because, it was in LA, which I was in San Francisco, so it was close to home. It wasn't because of anything other than it was a top 20 school. It was gonna give me the network that I need to connect to the right people and get the kinds of opportunities that I wanna get. The information in business school, you coulda learned online already back then. I It was class of 2015, what, 10 years ago? We just had our 10-year reunion last month, I think. Um you could learn the MBA degree online. You don't need to go to school. You go to the university or to somewhere, to some place with people because you want to be around those people. You go there for the proximity to the teachers who have done something crazy wonderful, and you want to absorb what they want to talk about. And you want to have a group of 300 plus people that are going to be someone in that world, and you want to be close to them, and you want to be close to the network of alumni who already are someone, right? So I think that education will never be as valuable remote, meaning that, well, I should say this. There's really two channels of education. You can learn whatever you want online today, right? Like, you don't need to go anywhere for that. But then there's this path of, having a network and having influence and having proximity. So I think, if you position it to your son as, look, if you go to Harvard, you're gonna meet the next Mark Zuckerberg, and that's the kind of people that you want to know in your future. There's no way you can meet them online or even socializing wherever it is that he lives. Like, don't go for the classes, get C's, I don't care. But meet the right people so that you have, like, what kind of future do you want? Do you need investors? Do you need mentors? Right? That's where they are. They're at Harvard or Stanford, right? Like, if you can get into one of those two schools, your life is set. And
Bingo.
by the way, people hire you if you drop out of Harvard, not if you go there. So go to Harvard, drop out like day two, and then, go. So
Good advice. I'll give it to my son today. Um, I know we have a few minutes left, so a couple of things I wanted to touch. First of all, the great institution that I think can be an umbrella for AI education is Milken Institute. So I have a guy who is in charge of AI technologies, Eric Kaplan. He's all over the world, lives in New York. I'll actually talk to him to see if he can collaborate. But they are right across White House, their headquarters, right?
Mhm.
And they have enough money to go and spread the word and organize to educate folks in AI. I think that would be right organization as a nonprofit to go and do the stuff. So in my mind, he was in charge of Operation Hope, and now is looking into AI. So I'll talk to him and see if he can take me up on this challenge. But one thing that I wanted to finish our discussion with is recommendations of to all the people, to all the listeners of this podcast who is still afraid of AI. What do you recommend? How do you, call for action for them to go and do something, subscribe to something, or listen to something? What is sort of your um, advice to them?
um I think there's probably three stages of advice. Tapping into AI, figuring out who you are in this world, and then kind of claiming it. So if you're someone who is, let's say, a ChatGPT user that uses it as Google search, right? And it's a great Google search. Um, Look up some prompts online. You could just even ask ChatGPT, like, what's the craziest prompt that I can. You can literally have ChatGPT write the prompts that you're going to give it back to it, right? See if you can talk to it like a human being. Sometimes I'll just turn the mic button on, and I'll just blab on for 7 minutes about what I'm thinking about, and then like, okay, help me with this, and then it kind of does, right? So treat it like a friend, and see what comes out of it, and then ask it really complicated questions. Like, see how far you can kind of go with it, so you can realize the extent of where we are today already, and how fast we're moving into this AI forward future. Number two, you are the solution to something in this world. Like, you definitely are. And society and your parents haven't said this before because it just wasn't culturally acceptable to do that. But the reality is, whether it's 3 years from now, which is that's the prediction of when AGI and ASI is going to come in just 3 years, so not 10 or 20, things are going to change. And why not figure out what would you talk about to people, or what is special about you, or what did you like to do as a kid that could be maybe monetizable later? What are those things? Start thinking about it. And number three, when you've done those two things, talk to ChatGPT and realize how freaking advanced it is, and figured out what is special about you, go and put some stuff online. Write a book, start a blog, make some videos of yourself talking, or create art that you've done. Just put it all online, because at some point that will become valuable, and you don't want to play catch up. Like, you want to have as much content out there showcasing the pieces about you that are interesting and that people don't know about. Have it somewhere. You don't have to post it anywhere. Just have it in digital form, so that when there's a clone that can be monetized, that is easy to make, you can just give it to the clone and make money from it. So I think those are the things that I would.
It's even
What about
scary for
you?
me. Yeah, yeah. No, it's a bit scary. I don't know if I would. I need to control my clone for sure. I don't know if I'll trust, uploading all the videos and then having a clone, and then this clone is running all over the internet and telling people what to do, and then I get the hate mails. No, 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 no. But how can people find you? What are you working on? Anywhere you'd like to give the references to, so people can click and explore if they have any questions.
Yes. The quickest way to reach me is probably either through my website, adrianadelor.com. Adriana has one N, so ADRIANADELOR.com. There's a contact form, so they can reach me there, read about some of the things that I'm working on slash did before. Another way is through my Instagram. It's open. I use humor to just ease people into AI on Instagram. I'm still kind of playing around with my style and voice. So if you want to see me making fun of things, go there. It's at Adri Delor, ADRIDELOR. Um, I'm starting a podcast called Reclaiming the Future, where I'll be talking to people about what the future might look like. So people from the government, from industry, from even Hollywood, and regular people as well, to figure out how everybody's thinking about it, but also to kind of ideate and to see if we can create some nuggets even through these podcasts that could become items we address in the think tank. Because really, the bigger goal of all this, of me speaking about AI and doing funny things on Instagram and interviewing people, is I do think that this think tank, as a nonprofit or however it comes about, is an important contribution to society that I'd really love to play a part in. And I think if enough people hear what we have to say and what might be possible, they might be willing to plug in and fund something like that. And I think that would be amazing for society and for humans. And I'd love for that to happen. So
Wonderful. Adriana, thanks so much for participating in the podcast. We've learned a lot. I hope my audience learned too. Click below to subscribe, and then certainly follow Adriana on Instagram and LinkedIn. Thanks, everybody.